for service, TDC for quality. TDC your company, TDC for service, TDC for quality. TDC your company. Together we succeed, building our strong community, pressing onward to our destiny. One love, one family. Together we succeed. Let the whole world see. Yes, this is 50.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
Good morning to our listeners out there in Radio Land and those viewing us on social media. We are the St. Kitts National Youth Parliament Association, and we are joined by some guests. And we, this morning, will be having a discussion on the Smoking Designated Area Bill. That bill is to be debated in Parliament, our National Assembly, next week, Tuesday. And so we are having a layman discussion on the provisions, the impact, and just general views on the bill and the achievement of the bill in overall. So I would allow the persons. I start by introducing myself. My name is Hassani McDonald. I am an attorney at law and also the Public Relations Officer for the St. Kitts National Youth Parliament Association, SCNIPA. So I'll allow the other persons present this morning to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about them.
Good morning, SKN. I am Jalen Manzak. I'm the Treasurer of SCNIPA, along with other things as Caricon Youth Ambassador, etc. And I am so happy to be here with such amazing people. We are SCNIParians, young attorneys, counselors, and I'm looking forward to the discussion, like Hassani spoke about. That is a layman conversation. So the conversation it's going to be very simple, and we're going to talk about the impact, about what the bill means to us. So we're encouraging you as well to comment as well as call when the time is necessary.
Awesome.
Hi, and I'm Tracy Watley. I'm a counselor and also a substance treatment specialist.
Okay.
I am happy to be here to have this discussion. I was glad when my two past students would have said a layman discussion. I sometimes get in trouble when people hear my views on certain topics, because when they hear counselor, they see a set view on things. But I am happy that this conversation is being had, especially among young people, because they are the ones who are going to inherit whatever is passed within Parliament in the next couple of days or weeks. And so it is a conversation that we need to have. Thanks for having me.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Siobhan Phipps. I'm an attorney at law and a person that has a passion for policy. It's an honor for me to be here this morning with SCNIParians and all of the other guests, and we look forward to a fruitful discussion this morning.
Awesome.
Good morning. My name is Malachi Ferguson, the Vice President of SCNIPA. One of the reasons why we chose to have this discussion, right? We have a more active parliament, I think, in our history, the most in our history, and we find it necessary that the youth voice always be a part of any decision made on our behalf, because any decision made, as Tracy would have mentioned, now affects us in the future, right? So you could look out for more from the gallery from Sniper going forward, where we give our views and facilitate the necessary conversations so we can change and agitate the necessary amendments and changes that we, young people, and we as society want to see.
Yes. So let's jump right into the discussion. So basically, what I want to start off with is almost a background to why we are at this point. That is why the parliament or our legislatures are now debating the smoking designated area bill. And so I think I would start back to the High Court decision that was passed in 2019. That was the famous Ras Sankofa case, where the judge basically was of the view that the Rastafarians, their religion, their practices of using the marijuana, it was being trampled upon or encroached upon, and so the judgment would have alluded to the fact that the then existing full prevention, possession, and cultivation laws were inconsistent with the constitutional rights of freedom of conscience. So as a religion, you have your freedom to do certain practices, and the laws at that time would have been encroaching on the Rastafarians' use. And so having passed the judgment to allow for Rastafarians to participate in this practice, the judge would have basically given Parliament 90 days to amend the laws to come into line with his decision. Because, as we said, it was encroaching upon their rights, and so he allowed them to participate in their practices, but agitated Parliament to make the necessary changes, amendments to the laws. So what I think came about from that is that persons started feeling like smoking was a free-for-all. And so it was in the public, persons were just not respecting people's personal space. And so the parliament now is trying to create, they're decriminalizing the marijuana, but they're also allowing you to smoke in designated areas so that you don't affect the public, because there are persons, you are coexisting with persons. These persons may have health or related allergies to the smoke, and so everybody's existing in one space, but you will be in this area smoking, allowed to do this, and you will not be able to affect those outside. So generally, where do you think this law is taking us as a nation? Anyone can jump in at this time. What do you think this law is achieving for our federation? Do you think it is a timely one? Do you think it is a step into the right direction for our society? Let's start the discussion.
Okay, well, I will go first. I think that the bill is indeed a progressive one, but I think with any change in law, it comes with figuring out how do we balance what we knew before versus what is to come. And I think that is why the designated smoking areas bill would have come about, to sort of strike the balance between those persons that wish to engage in those activities and those that don't, and allow everybody to still coexist in one place. And so it's just a matter for us to figure out how do we really strike the perfect balance, even though we know balance may not ever be perfect, and just figure out how do we allow everyone to coexist and enjoy spaces doing what they wish to do.
Right, and it's definitely a timely piece of legislation. You make mention of it in terms of the rampant smoking, etc. If you walk in Basel on 4th Street, it smells
It's
like
we already have designated
we already have it, and it smells like the scent is very high. It's bothering to some persons, and I could even make reference of I think it was music festival, the last or the one before that, where I think somebody has some complications to
Yes,
smoke.
there
and-
was an incident where I think one person suffered an asthma attack in the crowd during the
Yeah.
music festival.
So this is very timely. It is something, as Chevy was saying, to make find that balance between those persons that smoke and those persons that don't smoke. And it's you can't just come down harsh and be like, stop smoking, because it is something that is happening. So you have to be able to deal with it. And looking at the bill, I know we're gonna dissect it and look at it. It's very how should I say? It's
All encompassing.
yes, it's all encompassing, and it touches on a lot of different facets. Yes.
For me, I really do think that it's important for us to look at the aspect not just from a one-sided view, but from an eclectic view. I know a lot of persons are happy to have something like that, because let's be frank, persons have been smoking marijuana whether or not it was illegal or,
Right.
or not. As a matter of fact, I think more persons didn't smoke it not because of a health concern, but just because it was illegal. Illegal. And so now it is that they are making provisions for it to be controlled within specific areas. It's very important, but I just don't want it to be okay. It's just marijuana alone in designated areas, because all smoking, whether it's marijuana, cigarette, whatever it is, need to be controlled.
But I think in
to
the bill
that
it does.
to that
List
extent.
of,
But,
It touches on that.
but we just keep saying marijuana,
Right,
marijuana,
right.
marijuana, and so
Because-
we are screwing what is really supposed to be the discussion on in general. So.
Yes. I think because of the reason, and especially because it was the marijuana that I think it was the marijuana triggered the smoking designated. Because we know cigarettes and vapes, like those were not stigmatized in our, though they are not stigmatized in our societies.
And very tolerated as well.
Yes. But to the point where you would see somebody, you would smell cigarette, you would scoff because persons don't like the smell of it or whatever. But when it's marijuana, it's just like, you're smoking weed here.
Yeah.
It's just like, go over there. But a cigarette smoker is right there. So let's not act like it's not the marijuana that triggered yes.
I feel like it's really important for us to have that discussion, more not just the law, but the impact, as y'all would have mentioned, it would have on our society, right? Because we need to understand about 7 years ago or so, before this 2019, this judgment, not even 7 years ago, before this 2019 judgment, we were a society that looked down on these
Yes.
smokers and persons who smoke marijuana and so on. So then, no, this is very different. Some few years later, we know a lot of things, because you have to understand control, right? And the agents of control. One is the church. We are a Christian society, right? Now the judgment would have said that Rastafarian is a religion, right? So what does this mean for us as a people, right? What wasn't a norm 3-4 years ago now has become a norm and comes with added baggage, right? So what are we going to do as a people to combat that? Are we going to be do it now, fix the problems, or try to tackle those problems that will come, right? Or are we going to just wait until they lay deep roots and then become major problems in the end?
I think it's important that you mention the acceptance or the inclusion now of the Rastafarian faith. Even that religious practice was almost stigmatized and looked down upon, like, you as a Rasta, like what you're doing. And I think now, within our societies, we are seeing a more all-inclusive approach to religion. And so accommodating that religion and its practices and their use of the marijuana, I think is definitely a progressive and timely one. And so I think we can jump right into some of the provisions that we are seeing in the bill. Like, let's start off, or I will suggest we start off with the definition. Some of the definitions, like public place. Like, do you think the public place was like an expansive, did it give an expansive view, an all-encompassing view of public place? What are your thoughts? What are the thoughts on the public place definition?
Well, the public, okay, we could probably talk about it in terms of what it says. So it says that it includes an indoor-outdoor area, and it also highlights whether it is privately or publicly owned. So I feel like, yeah, it definitely does encompass what a public place is, because it is not just like, how should I say, Independence Square, but it's also could be a business as well, etc. So it goes outside of the regular normal fields, etc. So it definitely does have different scenarios. Yes.
I agree. And also, I mean, it lists places. So it goes to schools, tourist establishments, hospitals, churches, correctional facilities, public transportation, community centers. List a bunch of places. And then there is an ending phrase which says other places or building of all types accessible to the public. So I think that you're not left without worry.
Right.
Like, when you go to this list, your public place must fit somewhere you want to be. And so I think that is a very when you're having these new bills being passed, it's very important that persons understand and that there is not more questions being asked than answers. So like, person got to be wondering like, what is a public place like?
Right.
You have this list, very expansive, and you can know, well, I can't smoke in these places. So I think that's like one of the first things that jumps out at me. And then, as it relates to the smoking, we see that it did not just limit it to the marijuana. It included everything. So it was it's the vape, it's the cigarettes. Electronic. So, we're getting very creative. And I think the law, it almost looks to the future in a sense, like, we're going to amend it if something new come up. Because
Everything would fall under some category.
Once you're inhaling and you're exhaling, it's burning and combusting. Then
Heated device.
Yes. So you're not like, it's funny now, but it also encompasses some development in these devices that we see being used around in society, and it even goes on to define smoking device.
I guess for us, we would have benefited because this has been a conversation that has been going on worldwide for a while now, and so we now coming on the back end of it to an extent. We were able to, have other persons to look at to see what their definition is, what did they include, because I know for a very long time vaping slipped through the cracks because nobody was really taking it on as being something serious. So I think it's a plus coming in and after looking to see what everybody else would have done to see exactly what needs to be added. And I am sure that as time go on, you're going to have to amend.
I'm sure, but at least 5 years. We're good for 5 years, I think.
But it's forward thinking.
Yes, definitely. Then we could go to the penalties. That's under Section 3, smoking prohibited in public places. So it says that a person who contravenes... A person shall not smoke in public place, and so a person who contravenes that, they would be allowed to retain possession of their smoking device, but they would have a fixed penalty of 500. What do you think about the penalty? Do you think it's one that is harsh? Do you think that it is one that it's a tap on the wrist? Like, let's go over there. What do you think? What do you think is achieved by that penalty? $500, or in default, community service, and if you don't do your community service, then you're in prison for 5 days.
Well, I wouldn't say it is harsh. I also wouldn't say it is light. What I found interesting is that the person, if they're, not necessarily use the word contravening, but if they are disrespecting the bill, soon to become an act, you get to keep the device,
And your marijuana.
Yeah.
marijuana. So I found that very interesting. So I don't know how I feel about that in terms of repeat offenders. Like, let's say, for example, you're at a event, music festival, etc., and let's say the police come to you and they're like, stop smoking, and you need to go into the designated area, and you decide that you're not going to move. What do you do? Like, do you continuously ticket them? Do you continue? You know, that's what I'm trying to figure out in terms of that. And then, what if they get the ticket, and they keep the device, and they say, okay, is a ticket.
Just like I don't pay a traffic ticket.
But I feel like my only thing is that I'm wondering if persons, wherever this designated area is, like, if you had a function, you could stay at the bar, you could stay from certain places, and you could still have a good time at the event. But if these public places, these designated areas, they are so withdrawn from what is happening or withdrawn from the place that you're at, how do you think persons would feel inclined to stay in the public areas? Because, I mean, it's a new thing. Usually, as we see right now, you just pull up, you light up, and you smoke everywhere. Do you think it would be a trouble? Do you think there would be a difficulty with persons
Staying?
remaining in?
But is it too steadier? No, you don't just, it's like going to a bar, you go to the bar, you go to the bar to drink, and then you just go back to the fest?
Well, I guess that's for promoters to figure out, how do we have a designated smoking area that is not far from the entertainment? Because whether you're in the smoking area or not, you're a patron. And I guess it's the same like a VIP booth, in the sense that even though like VIP booths are usually further away from the stage, they still aren't far from the entertainment. So, and I guess that's why there's a section in the act that speaks to the person holding the license being responsible for how reasonable they are with ensuring that the smoking section doesn't affect the non-smoking section. So it's rare, and the things that we're speaking about now are just questions that we have, and really and truly we won't get firm answers until we see the bill in action and we see how promoters tackle with it and figure out how we're going to maneuver around it. So it's just an early conversation that we're having to kind of shed light on the
some of the things
of
that
it
would
and
need
what
to be
is
thought
come.
about.
I think to again, we have always had unofficial designated
That's true.
smoking
I
areas.
usually like not smoking here.
Because when you look down, sometimes when you're at a specific place and you look down and you just see this big white cloud,
exactly
you know
where they
exactly what's going on over there. But I think again, it would mean that, as you say, promoters or persons will have to be aware of where they are keeping
Their events.
Their events, because then you will have to know, well, it has to be in an area where it's not, the wind doesn't blow it onto somebody else. And so being specific as in where this smoking area has to be, I think is important, as opposed to just anywhere. You could just say, oh, well, over there is a smoking area.
Well,
and
the law
everybody's
actually gives the
affected.
CMO, I think she's the one who would be, currently is a she.
Yes.
But the CMO would be the one responsible for granting license. So they would have to make the necessary assessment to see like what is the practicality of having a smoking designated area in this place. Apparently, if you don't have the device, no,
Extraction
the extraction
fans.
fans, you may not be able to get a license. So as much as this bill is being passed or being debated to be passed in Parliament, then there we see infrastructure could be a hurdle to persons getting their devices.
License.
Then as it relates to construction in the future, if you're going to be building a bar, no, I have to make sure I got extraction fan, because if I want here to be the designated area, planning, I guess the CMO would then have to be involved with the planning board or whatever. As it relates to granting approval of bars and things, I think that's what I'm thinking, futuristically, of course.
And I think it also have establishment for recreation and what's not, bars, restaurants, right? And you want these this specific license, that you have a duty to your patron, or you have a duty to your customer. A lot of these places, they don't have fire extinguishers, they don't have fire alarm system, they don't have the necessary things, and this forces you, if you really want your establishment to welcome customers and to do these things, that you have to be in line, because I think it would most likely be a collaborative effort between the fire department and the CMO, right? So even fire escapes, because one of the things we need to look beyond, okay, is just, it's weed, it's smoking of weed, smoking of cigarettes, it's something lit, and that can start a fire, right? And that is a major thing we need to understand, because it won't be, if it does happen here, it won't be the first in the world of an incident of this kind, due to a lit cigarette or.
And then just to add to what Malachi says as well, it's going to sort of cause a shift in what we expect patrons to have in bags and pockets, because a designated smoking area now means that, persons would be allowed to walk with a lighter to light a cigarette, or to light
what would now be confiscated at the security booth
will now change, because does that mean that persons that are coming in with cannabis can walk with their necessary scissors?
Or do you have to come with it
or
prepared?
do you have to come with it prepared? And so that's why I think that, it's, as much as it is a bill on paper, practically we have to think about how it's going to affect everything going forward. Because yesterday I heard the Attorney General say that persons will be limited to the current carrying amount, which is 2 ounces, I think.
56 grams, something around there.
Right.
Yeah.
So then.
So that means somebody's going to be there actually weighing?
No, he said that police will be able to eyeball it, because they would know how much it looks
Subjective.
like. Right, so that's what I'm saying.
So that's no, my hand might be bigger than Chevy's hand. So who gonna determine which this is a handful?
And then if I come with, let's say, joints pre-prepared, how do you know how much is actually wrapped in it?
I think
what is in
estimated,
it,
like
exactly what is in it.
That's true. It's really what is in it. But my thing about the limitation is, if you're gonna have it in joints, would you be limited to 3 joints? If you're gonna have it not prepared in the joint form, it's the joint form. But if you're gonna not have it prepared in the joint form, like, what would be the measure? Because then when you give people this discretion, somebody might be reasonable
And
in
my
enforcement.
my police friend by the gate.
Exactly. So it is really our society approach as it relates to compliance. I am hoping that if this bill sees safe passage, that persons would
Not overdo.
Yeah, because there's a tendency that they know it is, I can just bring all of this in here.
I think massive education is important too.
Yes, and I
because-
think campaigns are
Yes.
definitely loading as it relates to educating persons on what exactly they could do, what they can do.
Yeah. I feel like even before licenses are,
Issued.
we really need to have that education part of it, because I could see if it's supposed to be a music festival, it being a problem, right? Because now the risk has increased. As you would have indicated, are you allowed to bring in your lighters, right? That's a risk, right? Are you allowed to bring in scissors? I don't think so, because that can be used as a weapon.
Yes.
But then, it needs to be very clear guidelines ahead of any event, what the do's and don'ts, because the legislation leaves it once you get the lighter, the license to the promoter to really ensure that it is well put together, right? So it definitely needs to have those clear guidelines of what to expect, because even to those persons who are issued these licenses, right, the individuals, because remember, we need to understand there are 2 separate licenses, one for the establishment and one for the individual who intends to smoke, right? So for religious purposes, and this I think is in the act, you have to be licensed with the ecclesiastical affairs and faith-based services, right? So all of these things, and I feel enforcement would be a major part of it, and just leaving it up to the discretion. In the past we've had issues with that, because we are different persons, right? And So what might go for you might not go for me. Our experiences are different, so how we handle things are different, right? But once you're guided by clear policies, of course, then it'll be your discretion is guided. So I think it's definitely we need to have a conversation ahead of time with definitely promoters and patrons. So we need to start the education yesterday.
As it relates to the point about the license being for establishments and the license being for events. So I was thinking, if I'm gonna have, okay, I'm gonna give a scenario first. I think Chef, you could assist me. In Barbados, right? You need like a liquor license and that kind of thing if you're gonna have an event. If I'm using an establishment that already has a liquor license, I don't need to personally apply. If I'm having my event at that place, I don't need to go and reapply for a license because I could use the license for that place. Do you think that the legislation should have allowed for that? Like say Warner Park could have their designated area, so whenever you're having an event in Warner Park, you don't have to apply for the license. You use Warner Park's license and you use your designated areas. Instead of having everybody coming in to reapply, do you think it would have been, it is necessary? Do you think that's something that the law could have encompassed or incorporated?
I think one of the things that we need to remember too, it was Wasankofa who went for the marijuana legalization and so from a religious point. But we have seen now marijuana has been commercialized and so there's a monetary issue that goes behind it. So governments or persons are not really pushing for the religious part. They're really thinking about the money that they can generate from it. So yes, everybody have to apply for a license because it's money. You're paying for it.
That's true.
So
But
you have to
I
look
guess
from
the question
that point.
Sani is raising is in terms of, making the application process
Smooth,
effective.
yes.
Because
Smooth.
take for example, Fairview Inn is a common place that events are held, whether it's fetes, weddings, parties, baby showers, whatever it may be. And so I guess he's saying if Fairview Inn has a license that I could use when I host my event there, it means then that the CMO has one less application to process because then I won't be applying for one individually.
But then let's say a mother, because we know a mother or parents, let's say a parent decide, okay, I'm going to have a party for my teenager
At that same
venue. So that this automatically extend
to my event.
Because now it includes minors.
Now it includes minors.
That's true. That's a
so
good thing.
that's something that you have to think about also
Right.
when it is that you're going to leave something like that
Open. I'm just
Because
going to use Warner Park. I'm just going to use
There's
them.
something in the act that says that the license is not transferable.
Yes.
So if Hassani applies for it, it's Hassani's own. Or for example, if WinFM applies for it, it's WinFM's own.
Yeah. So exactly, that is actually what triggered my thought process because it was not transferable, but as it relates to like a smooth, effective running of the application, because no doubt, application can start to pile up. We know how these things go when you're applying for a license and all kind of thing. These processes.
But I don't think it's going to be so straightforward, because in the act it says that when you're applying, you have to give a detailed description of what your designated area is going to be. I assume that means then that if I put in an application that says, I am applying for this space to be a designated smoking area, it is 5 feet times however much feet, then there will be some sort of check and balance on the back end from the CMO's people who are going to validate and confirm that, oh yes, the space is actually this big and does allow for the smoking area to be this big and it doesn't affect the non-smoking areas. So, and that's why I say it's kind of just left to see how the bill plays out in a practical sense, because a lot of things could work on paper.
Yeah, because even what I'm seeing now, as you're saying about having a license just there permanently for establishment like Nirvana, right? One of the things that you would see, I might have an event that is 300 persons, right? So that small area that would have been the designated smoking area would have been suitable, right? But now I have an event with 3,000 persons, right? That area is nowhere suitable for that, right? So then, we really, as you said,
so I guess the non-transferable license does is the best route.
Yes.
Because, and now I'm thinking about it, having considered the thoughts of you guys, a liquor license is kind of different to a license.
But then
Because-
that is what jumped out at me. Now,
Yes.
should it be different, or
Yes.
should we see all substances as substances?
Oh.
But then you see, because liquor, there's not a limit on what you can bring in, or what you can sell, then that is what happens now.
And it's already regulated. Liquor is
Yes.
already regulated.
Yes. As the bartender, you're not supposed to serve the person if it looks like they've had too much. That's not followed. But we'll take a short commercial break, and we will be right back with our discussion on the smoking designated area bill. And callers and public viewers, you will get the opportunity to call in and share your views and ask your questions. But we'll take a short commercial break and be back with more Inside the News.
If you need protection, you need one who you can trust to secure your investment. You need one who'll do you just. TDC Insurance, you're the one that you can trust. TDC Insurance, you're always safe with us.
TDC Insurance is your go-to insurance company for all your insurance needs. We take pride in offering you the best solutions and ensuring our customers are fully satisfied. TDC Insurance, we take good care of you, guaranteeing you peace of mind.
You're always safe with us.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
And we are back from a commercial break with our first edition of From the Gallery. Joining us on set, we now have Mr. Stefan Joseph. I will allow him to introduce himself, and then we'll jump back into the discussion we were having before the break.
Good morning, everybody. First of all, sorry for my lateness. Things happen.
That's true.
My name is Stefan Joseph. I work for the Ministry of Social Development and Gender Affairs. I've been doing that for 3 years now. Before that, I worked in the Department of Youth in Nevis. I did that for about 5 years. So I think my contribution to this discussion will more or less be from a youthful perspective, as well as, having worked in probation and child protection, you have some of that legal framework coming in there. So I guess that's me in a nutshell.
Yes, I'm happy that you introduced yourself and spoke about the youth aspect, because I want to touch on that. Because having a smoking designated area, it will now mean that you have to monitor the persons in that area. There's a tendency now, we're seeing teenagers being in the same place where adults are. How now would we regulate the persons who are allowed into these areas? Would you be enforcing the IDs, that you have to present an ID to be entered, so that you can, of course, verify age? Because that's a problem that I can foresee happening. People, young teenagers in there with their friends, because they line with them out on the road in regular places, so they figure I got in the smoking designated area with my friend. So how?
Well, when I first read the bill, I thought the exact same thing, like, how do we regulate this? But I think the bill probably should be expanded slightly to include, because enforcement has always been an issue. We could agree on that. Enforcement of any law within the Federation is an issue. However, I feel that a smoking area should not be in a place where minors are allowed. So, for instance, you're not allowed to take a minor to a bar or, anywhere around alcoholic drinks. So, in enforcing that, you technically enforce this as well. So, you're not allowed in the building in the first place. But there are instances like Fairview Inn, I think you mentioned that before, where, you're keeping a party and so on. Again, the enforcement comes in with the age restrictions for these events. I find a lot of young persons are being allowed to attend events that they really shouldn't be at in the first place.
So we know the introduction of this bill will now mean stricter enforcement of the persons being allowed into these places, because believe it or not, Stefan, the train them does be in the party, in the dance them.
And
the train them does be in the bar. So no.
And who should be held accountable for that?
Well, we see the law or the bill putting the onus on the holder of the license to ensure full compliance with the license.
So, and I think that's a great first step, because if you're in a place where you're not supposed to be, that the person monitoring entry should be held accountable. In the expansion aspect of it, I also feel that if a minor is found anywhere that they're not supposed to be, there must be some parental kickback as well, because I think for a long time we've put the raising of our children onto society and government institutions, and we have not put enough emphasis on parenting, because it's really important. So community is responsible in the sense that the promoters get kickback if these things are breached, and then family responsibility, because you find the promoter and then the child goes to a next party and you find the next promoter, like that kind of it's right, but it's kind of mystic, because it's not, because the same individual just keeps going to different parties over and over and over again. So that has to be dealt with as well.
But and it's, I don't know if my learned colleagues, Hassani or Shelby, can assist with what the law says when it comes to individuals. Is it 18 or 21 at, like, where they sell alcohol? Alcohol is sold. Does the law speak to that?
I think 18.
I don't think there's the stipulation for the 21. I think age of majority is 18, and I think that is what is used across the board.
So, and I feel
21 is
It's
you,
not-
is America.
America. And I feel like that's what we need to start also bring into the conversation, that, right? So if an event promoter wants to have a designated area, and to get in the designated area, because I think it does speak to that, you must be 18 and over, right? So that in itself needs policing, because that would mean to get in the designated smoking area, I would assume that you would need to show, I think you only have to show your ID to show you're over 18.
Well,
Your government issue.
the freedom, as it relates to the freedom of conscience cannabis bill, that does say that adult means a person at least 18 years of age.
Yeah.
So that bill, no, because remember, you're supposed to have your, what that thing is,
Your ID, your license.
the license to be in this area. If you don't have your license, saying that you practice this religion, you believe the herb is.
No, from what I understand, you can get into this area just by being 18 and over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But to smoke marijuana, if the police happen to come in this area, all right, and said, "You're smoking weed," okay, let me see. Do you have an ID for that? They can have infractions for that.
Yes.
But you can get in this space just by being 18.
Yes, so yeah, as an 18-year-old, I can go into a smoking designated area, but if I'm going to be participating in the smoking, then I need,
Marijuana,
yes.
So again, it
I have
comes.
a question when you finish.
Sure. It comes down to who is going to police this, because.
But then I think that's a part of the decriminalization aspect of the marijuana. So they're allowing you to hold this amount. If you're holding it, anything above that, then that's an offense and you're charged accordingly. But I don't think it is a means of saying that we're going out there. Look, yeah.
No, that's not what I meant. But I think that there's so many loopholes, right? It's not funny, man.
But I mean, it's a start.
Yeah, it's a
Yes.
start, and I applaud that. So you're not going to run around and so on, but and say we're going to search to see if everybody here has this card and stuff like that. But that's why this bill is actually kind of important too, because then you're creating a kind of sort of bottleneck or a filter where you can actively ensure that, hey, people who respect this aspect of it, the religious aspect of it, are allowed to. I don't think we've gotten to the fully recreational sense of it as yet.
Yes, it's really there's a heavy focus on the freedom of conscience aspect, because remember, marijuana internationally is still an illicit drug, and so I think the law, what it is trying to do, it is trying to fit as much into conformity with international standards as well, and so I think that's a part of it.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a really good start. Maybe I should have started by saying that. It's a really
My
we established
question,
About the registration.
yeah, do we think that the bill is placing a lot of responsibility on the owners of the establishments and promoters who would be applying for the licenses?
It does, and I totally agree with that aspect.
Yes, because similarly, just like how if you're coming in, you're going to affect these promoters, places security guards at the door to ensure you don't come in with no bottles,
Yeah.
because that could be a weapon. It's the same way. This is now a law. You need to be in compliance with it to minimize the risk, minimize any infractions of the like, etc.
But I feel like one of the things, I am happy that it puts a lot of duty on business owners and event promoters, because I think for far too long, we've allowed, okay, let the government handle it, the police handle it. This is your event. You have a duty to your patrons, right? So therefore, you need to put in place, just like, okay, you need to have a Red Cross vehicle there or ambulance there in case somebody falls down, right? It's just just in the case that you need to ensure that your guidelines, your policies are very clear, so that your patrons, whether they're smokers or non-smokers, are comfortable, because you do owe them a duty.
And you have the follow-on effect of community, because now you're going to an event, you spend $150, $200 to go to
Three.
an event.
6. That's VIP.
That's too rich for my event. But you have the community now saying, I've spent all of this money to go to this event. Hey, there's that person over there that is doing something that they're not supposed to be doing. Let's tackle
Yes.
this now.
Yes.
Before
Because then
authorities have to get involved.
when the police come and they realize that they are infractions, I would
Everything
imagine that
shut
it's
down.
not on the first infraction. Warnings, of course, as we say, it's on the paper, but practicality. Warnings issued, yeah, and listen, they go up there again, you still got these training the smoking area over the limit, etc. Then that could allow for one revocation of your license, etc.
I think for me too, but my mind is all over the place at this point in time, because I think what I would have seen for the past couple of days, that when we tend to put all our energy and efforts into trying to monitor or control one thing, then we lapse on the others. And so I'm now seeing all this effort going into policing the marijuana aspect. Lord, if any lapse are on drinking, we are going to be in trouble, because we, at this point in time, will lapse on it. And I think then this is a good opportunity for all of us to put them on equal level.
Yes.
Because I can't cite research, the exact research, but I know for me, more young people drink alcohol than who smoke marijuana. And the effects of alcohol is just as bad as the effects of marijuana to some extent when it comes and the user age. And so this, I guess, it's time for us to be responsible, not just for one thing, but for every
I agree.
thing.
Substance.
Because
Yeah.
that was one of the things that I thought about. Know that it would almost be like it's not so looked down upon, it's almost being accepted in our societies within range, of course. Do you think that it would increase the usage within young persons? Because they're probably gonna hide and do it. Some gonna hide and do it. But then when you realize that the stigma is being almost removed, it's just like, do you think it will have cause a domino effect in terms of increase, like a spike, or you think it's just the regular person's gonna just start to comply with the law now?
Whenever you make a change to anything, you're going to have that spike, right? And it's going to go up and down until it levels out.
Plateau, yeah, basically.
But going back to Tracy's point, I think what was the core concern for me too, when I say policing, I don't necessarily mean police officers. I mean we have so many laws on the books, right? They're not enforced. Well, not to the extent that they should. But then you have the other hand, like, okay, if this bill is enforced to its fullest extent, you're going to end up having like high numbers of persons spending 5 days in prison because they would have been in breach of the bill, in breach of the law, and so on. So how do we deal with that? So those follow-on effects we have to pay so much attention to and really come up with a strategy that allows us to adequately, quote unquote, police the bill or enforce the bill. I should use enforce. Adequately enforce the bill, as well as allowing it to serve its function, because it is like an intermediary bill that takes away the stigma from something that has been seen in the worst way for so long. And then we're doing that transition. So this shouldn't be the only bill, or there should be so much more scope to expand this bill so that we can have those follow-on effects and stuff like that, follow-on services and so on.
I think, of course, as you mentioned, the spike will go up and down until it generally goes out. But as it relates to the all society approach, I think it now brings into the picture the need to the collaborative need with the drug council and those substance abuse persons now to ensure that persons know or ensure that persons carry the necessary campaigns. Of course, remind persons that you don't need to smoke at a certain age. That all those campaigns now need to come in place to ensure.
And even it says, because in the bill it speaks to being under the influence of marijuana and driving, right?
Yeah.
So of course we know don't drink and drive, right? So there has to be a campaign similarly to say, I guess, don't smoke and drive, right? So there is the need to have public education, and this is one forum, and we thankfully Sniper and WINNMedia found it necessary to have a forum like this, because we have to do our part as society, right? To educate our persons in our different circles and in our different sectors, right? And this is a start definitely in the right direction.
One thing too, I think, to step away from smokers for a second, let's look at non-smokers. If you know that, and because the bill said it needs to be clearly defined, it needs to put up at the entrance, so you know that this place has a smoking area. If you know that you're not a smoker, if you know that this is not something that you want to be around, then you're now armed with the knowledge to just not attend this location. Not go to this location. I think a lot of people, we get caught up in our right. So we're going to go into a place that has a smoking area. And the moment we smell a whiff of anything, we're upset and we want to jump on social media and make this claim and make that claim and so on, when all of that could be avoided by you just not going.
That's true. I know you said that, right? I kind of thought about, what do you think we would see places asking for their entire place to be a smoking designated area? Like, so as a non-smoker, you're clearly not. If you're gonna be affected if you're gonna be affected by the smoke, you can't go here because the whole of this place is a smoking area. You're gonna have smoking in here. You think they would have places emerging like that? Or
I don't think.
I would hope
like a smoke lounge.
A smoke lounge could be a part of a place, but to have the entire place be a smoke lounge,
I mean, you just thought about, you say if you're not going to go you're going to be affected by this smoke, don't go.
I don't
because
think
but that brings another problem to the table, because then bartenders, for the most part, like you're drinking and you're drunk. You're not supposed to drive, or well, in other places more so than here, where they're duty bound to cut you off at a certain point. Who's cutting off your marijuana usage? Because you're in there and you're getting high like a kite, and then you're just walking out.
Because nobody's serving you.
Exactly. So right. you come in with your own. So
how much ounces?
56 grams.
Of course, I think that's a major part of the discussion, and I think why it won't. I don't think it will be granted approval for entire venue. One, because remember the different risk. It might be enjoyable to you and the promoter to say, listen, it's just smoking. It's a smoking event, don't come. But there's other risk involved, right? You risk to those persons attending, those smokers could, because of the large number of persons smoking, the persons might take it with asthma attacks, fire hazards, and so on. So there's different aspects to look at when giving the approvals. Most likely is going to.
And what you're smoking is not what I'm smoking, and when those two mix, then it's
very
all those follow-on effects.
Very quickly before we take a break for for the news, midday news, there's a question on the live feed. It says, would a designated smoking area that allows smoking of cannabis indirectly promote the sale of cannabis? If there is a designated smoking area and I don't walk with my smoking material, would I be able to purchase there?
I guess that's going to be on the promoter's end, if it is that they are going to provide that as a service.
But you're allowed to sell?
No, you're not allowed.
No, because you're not supposed to be supplying. Because if you have...
I walk with it.
Let's tackle that on the tail end of the news, because that's a very involved discussion.
Okay, so that person who asked the question, it happens to be Mr. Phipps. We will take a short commercial break. We'll go into the midday news, and then we'll be back. So we're going to encourage you to stick and stay with us as we continue the discussion right here on From the Gallery on Inside the News. Don't move that dial.
You found the sound. 98.9. Win FM.
We now bring you the headline news. The headline news is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, and Carib Brewery.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
With over a century of perfection behind the Mackeson name, a smooth blend with perfect balance and richness, it's no wonder Mackeson Triple Stout has a legacy of perfection. Enjoyed the world over. Introducing our new look with the same great taste. Mackeson. All hail the king. Please drink responsibly.
When it comes to the important things in life, your health, your education, your choice of a life partner, and of course your insurance provider, only the best will do. Caribbean Alliance Insurance is the only insurance company in the Eastern Caribbean with an A excellent rating. We have a robust 3-tier reinsurance strategy that protects our policyholders from multiple catastrophes, even if they occur in quick succession. We spread our risks over 18 territories, ensuring minimal impact to individual territories when a disaster strikes. We provide an excellent claims experience. Claim settlement is usually between 24 to 48 hours. Our A excellent rating means that you are more secure with us. Contact us for motor, property, marine, public liability, employer's liability, and other policies. Delisle Walwyn, people you can trust. Local agent for Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tomorrow secured.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
With the Win Midday News, I am Devon Cornelius. In our headlines, St. Kitts and Nevis and Taiwan sign agreement to bring about an increase in poultry production in the Federation. CARICOM reiterates commitment to assisting Haiti. Second CBI dividend to be paid in June. The details of these and other stories straight ahead. The government of St. Kitts and Nevis, through the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries, Marine Resources and Cooperatives, is moving forward with the development of the poultry sector in the Federation as part of its overall goal of significantly reducing the food import bill. This is being facilitated through St. Kitts and Nevis Layer Chicken Industry Sustainable Development Project, which is being jointly implemented
by the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries, Marine Resources and Cooperatives and the International Cooperation and Development Fund, Taiwan ICDF. The project agreement was signed by Minister of Agriculture, the Honorable Samuel Duggins, and His Excellency Michael Lin, Resident Ambassador of the Republic of China Taiwan to St. Kitts and Nevis, during a ceremony held on Friday, June 16th, at the St. Kitts Marriott Resort. The St. Kitts and Nevis Layer Chicken Industry Sustainable Development Project will see the establishment of a hatchery on St. Kitts and one on Nevis, which, according to Minister Duggins, will greatly benefit poultry farmers in the Federation. The focus on reducing the importation of poultry falls directly in line with St. Kitts and Nevis's pursuit of achieving CARICOM's 25% by 2025 agenda, which is aimed at reducing the high regional food import bill. The establishment of the CARICOM Agri-Food Systems Strategy in the member states is expected to help achieve the 25 by 2025 target by giving special attention to priority crops and products such as poultry, which is highly imported in the region. In his remarks, Ambassador Lin said the government of the Republic of China Taiwan is pleased to be able to partner with the government of St. Kitts and Nevis in its efforts to strengthen food security in the country. Friday's signing ceremony was also attended by Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture on St. Kitts, Miguel Fleming, and Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture on Nevis, Huey Sargent. The Caribbean Community CARICOM has reiterated its commitment to assisting the government and people of Haiti as the country tackles several issues. In the aftermath of a meeting held in Jamaica earlier this week, CARICOM in a statement on Thursday said the meeting sought to facilitate inclusive dialogue among Haitian stakeholders in an effort to find a solution to the protracted multidimensional crisis in which the country has been mired. During the meeting, stakeholders addressed the core issues of the interim governance measures needed to restore confidence in the transition and to ensure that the government could deliver its commitments. Quote, these commitments include the critical issue of security and stability, the organization of credible general elections to choose a legitimate and representative government, constitutional reform, and the pursuance of fundamental reforms required to preclude a repeat of the current crisis, end quote, the press release stated. Stakeholders also stated that there was a need to build confidence and trust in the interim administration in order to effectively address the security crisis and for preparations for elections to commence. In this regard, there was widespread stakeholder support for the modification of the structures of government in the interim period. Haiti's interim Prime Minister Dr. Ariel Henry committed to greater inclusiveness in governance through the establishment of a government of national unity, beginning with working with the partners of the December 21 Accord to increase the number of members of the High Transition Council in order to include representatives of a wider group of stakeholders. Several other suggestions were made for mechanisms reflecting the spirit and intent of the Haitian Constitution by implementing a governance structure based on a presidency and a prime minister. Additionally, this structure should adhere to the constitutional requirement that a minimum of 30% of decision-making positions be held by women. The Eminent Persons Group was urged to continue to use CARICOM's good offices to work with all stakeholders to find a definitive solution to the crisis. The Eminent Persons Group also committed to going to Haiti to continue these consultations within the next several weeks. CARICOM also pledged to provide support for the elections, including assessment of preparations for and observation of the elections. Citizens and residents of St. Kitts and Nevis are set to benefit from a second Citizenship by Investment COVID-19 relief payment dividend, a share of the profits and retained earnings received from the country's CBI program. The payment process is scheduled to begin by Wednesday, June 21st, 2023. The introduction of the CBI dividend in December 2022 was the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party administration's fifth COVID-19 relief initiative since taking office in August 2022, and the first time in the Caribbean that everyday citizens and residents were paid a dividend on any state asset. The CBI dividend will be facilitated through the St. Christopher and Nevis Social Security Board and distributed in two tiers or categories. The first category is the pensionables and pensioners, and the second category is classified as those who are not yet pensionable. Pensioners and pensionable, that is, those who have made 500 or more contributions to the Social Security Fund, will receive a payment of 500 EC dollars. Those who are not yet pensionable, that is, those who have made 499 or less contributions to the Social Security Fund, will receive 250 EC dollars. The Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, the Honorable Dr. Terence Drew, encourages all citizens and residents to become financially savvy and help to create a wealth-conscious society as the government moves forward in creating opportunities and avenues for wealth accumulation. Dominica's Prime Minister has announced that his government wants to advance the work at the island's International Airport project. Significant work has been done. We discussed with the developers and contractors to advance the work to have a shorter period of time to complete the construction of the airport, Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerritt said. The discussions are being held and a strategy is being placed forward to advance the work. The 11-acre airport site at Wesley in Dominica has been recently cleared and leveled, and equipment has been moved directly to the area. Skerritt also expressed confidence in the contracting firm CR5 and disclosed that more than 94 local Dominicans have been employed in the construction. This number does not include the local truckers for the airport project, he said. The government is on top of ensuring that Dominicans get work. I have seen a number of people from Wesley opt out of the National Employment Program because they are engaged in the construction of the International Airport, Skerritt said. CR5 heads the construction of the airport after winning the $1 billion EC dollar plus contract for the Dominica International Airport project. The company, which is in charge of the design, construction, supply, completion, testing, and commissioning of the island's biggest project, was given revisions on the final design of the airport. The International Airport is a project that has been a long time coming, and finally in 2021 the government of Dominica signed an agreement with MMC Development Limited to finally begin the construction of the airport. The developing company has been a reliable partner of the Dominican government in various residential projects that were meant to provide climate-resilient houses to the residents affected by Typhoon Erika in 2015 and Hurricane Maria in 2017. These infrastructure projects, along with the International Airport, are funded by the country's CBI program. Dominica's CBI program is one of the oldest ones in the country.
A 16-year-old schoolgirl in an open letter to the president has alleged being groomed, preyed upon, and sexually assaulted by the minister of local government, Nigel Daramlal. News source made repeated efforts to get a comment from the minister today. Both of his known numbers went to voicemail on several occasions. There are reports that the president and the Minister of Education have both been made aware of the allegations. A senior education official reached out to the girl today to set up a meeting with the education minister, News Source has learned. In the letter, which was seen by News Source, the teenager detailed being allegedly contacted by the Minister of Local Government via WhatsApp and Facebook, and conversations taking place between the two. She also detailed meetings that allegedly took place at the minister's office and financial gifts being thrown at her by him. She also detailed being taken to the home of the minister and allegedly being forced to perform sexual acts by him and eventually being allegedly sexually assaulted by him. In the letter, she said she was raped and left feeling broken after the alleged incident at the home back in December. The teenager attached various messages from her phone and social media accounts that were allegedly sent to her by the minister. She complained of being hounded down by him repeatedly with phone calls and messages. She also said that before the alleged sexual assault, herself and other teenage girls had been warned by 2 other government officials about him. In a statement, President Finale said while he has seen the reports of the allegations, he has not received any formal complaint. However, he noted that any complaint will be fully investigated by the relevant authorities.
But I've seen the posts on Facebook and everything. Okay. And as I have said to Newsroom, my position on these matters are very clear. I don't condone or tolerate any behavior like that. And once any facts is established, anyone found guilty of any misconduct will be held accountable.
But having seen the allegations, sir, even if a report is not made, do you intend to ask the minister to step aside to allow for a proper investigation to be done?
No, but mostly, that's what I'm saying. Once the facts is established and a report is made, then I'll have to take the necessary action. But as of now, what I have is the post that everybody have.
President Irfanali. Opposition Member of Parliament with responsibility for public security matters, Geeta Chandan Edmond, in a statement today, said she has been left appalled by the allegations against Minister Nigel Dharamlal. She said she will seek to gather additional information about the allegations to complete a thorough legal assessment of the facts. She said upon completion of the examination, she will proceed to ensure that all the necessary legal actions are taken to ensure justice is done. The opposition member said the exploitation of young girls is reprehensible, and where that occurs at any level should be cause for concern, investigations and legal referrals based on the facts that emerge. Meanwhile, News Source understands that a government minister at the center of the serious allegations has reportedly reached out to the parents of the young girl. There are also reports that efforts were being made to get the teen to recant the allegations.
A humanitarian calamity. That's how the UN's aid chief is describing the situation in Sudan's West Darfur region. The situation in the region appears to be worsening by the hour. Thousands are fleeing across the border into neighboring Chad to escape fighting. Many are describing the violence they've experienced at the hands of armed groups in West Darfur's regional capital, Al Junaina. At least 1,000 people have been killed in the past month alone. We have Zain Basravi standing by for us. He's joining us from the town of Adre, that's on the Sudan-Chad border. So Zain, the president of Chad is expected in Adre. That says something about how important this issue has become for Sudan's neighbor.
That is exactly correct. This little border town of Adre has become the epicenter of a humanitarian crisis that people here tell us they haven't seen in decades. Now, this place is very remote. And just to give you a sense of that, we heard an aircraft overhead. It is very rare. That, I think, is the signal. It is safe to say that the president has landed, and we are expecting him to be here any moment now in the town, going to the border, going to the hospitals to assess the situation for himself. And wherever he goes, he is likely to see terrible circumstances. This is a major humanitarian issue for Chad, with the influx of refugees adding to already hundreds of thousands of Sudanese that have fled into Chad from previous conflicts, but it is also a security concern. So he's no doubt likely to meet the military that is based here, their job to protect the border and to stop that conflict in Sudan from spilling over to the Chadian side of the border.
Zain, the fighting has intensified in West Darfur as you've been reporting, and you've seen things go from bad to worse on the border.
That is correct. The border post where we spent several days, just in the last 72 hours, thousands more people have come across the border into Chad, and aid organizations tell us that they weren't prepared for such a sudden influx so quickly. So wherever the president goes, he is going to see a terrible circumstance facing the refugees that have been fleeing across from West Darfur. They arrive in desperate need of everything. They've been looted along the way by the militias that have set up checkpoints between Al Janeina and Adre. And the conditions at that border post are dire. The dead are being buried in open fields just behind the police checkpost. And just a warning to our viewers that some of the images in our report they may find disturbing. They've survived the violence in Sudan. In Chad, another struggle begins. Aid organizations say they were not prepared for the humanitarian crisis to become this big, this quickly. People arrive with gunshot wounds. One woman gave birth in this open field. They tell us men, boys, even young girls were taken prisoner along the way. But for some, the journey from West Darfur was too much.
The war has scattered people. The baby was sick and she died on the way here.
The baby's mother left her here to search for her other children. Her family in Chad is seeing her for the first time. They don't even know if she had a name. Those who make it try to find friends and relatives. There are reunions, but precious few. The UNHCR is here. They are doing assessments, and someone told us that they have never seen it this bad, that they are incredibly underfunded, they do not have enough money to help people here with anything, and that the international community simply doesn't care enough about this crisis, that it is just pure chaos. Some arrive only to bury the children they fled here to save. In the smallest graves, 2 girls and a little boy, none older than 3. Their fathers did not make it across.
They died from weakness because they had no food, and their mothers didn't have the milk to feed them. They're dead because of hunger caused by the war, and not just them. Probably the numbers will go up in the next few days.
They tell us their government, their country, and the world have abandoned them. Their situation, they say, is hopeless. Zain Basravi, Al Jazeera, Adre, on the Chad-Sudan border.
Hello, this is Julie Candler with the BBC News. Survivors of a rebel attack on a school in western Uganda say teenage students were killed with machetes before a bomb was thrown into a dormitory. About 40 boys and girls died and several students were abducted. Officials are blaming a radical Muslim group, the Allied Democratic Forces, or ADF. It's long been based in the neighbouring Democratic Republic of Congo. Major General Dick Olum leads the Ugandan Army's operations against the ADF across the border.
It is very unfortunate that a mistake was made and our children have been killed. There has been a lot of peace here. That is why I have been based in the DRC. To see these kind of attacks happening back home is not a good thing. Security is collaborative work. Why do you people keep quiet when you see strangers? Right now, we have deployed planes in various places to hunt them down and see if those they abducted can be rescued.
Vladimir Putin has welcomed a delegation of African leaders to St. Petersburg for talks on their appeal for a negotiated end to the war in Ukraine. Mr. Putin smiled broadly as he shook hands with the South African President Cyril Ramaphosa and his colleagues. They say they want to listen carefully to both sides in the conflict. Michael O'Hanlon from the Brookings Institute in Washington says a diplomatic breakthrough isn't likely.
Ukraine and Russia themselves and their neighbors don't really have much in the way of an idea right now on how to start negotiations. And I think until the Ukrainian offensive plays itself out a bit, nobody's going to have a realistic sense of who's got the upper hand and what kind of compromises may be realistic. So I think all these leaders can really do is express their concern and drive that point home to both the Ukrainian and Russian leadership.
The Russian defense minister has called for increased production of tanks for use in Ukraine. Sergei Shoigu spoke during an inspection of a Siberian military factory which makes tanks and heavy flamethrowers. Russia has lost many hundreds of tanks since launching its full-scale invasion last year. It's reported to have deployed additional helicopters to southern Ukraine to bolster its forces against a counteroffensive. Saudi Arabia's foreign minister has arrived in the Iranian capital Tehran to continue efforts to normalise relations. The former arch-rivals agreed to restore ties in March following Chinese mediation. Yusuf Taha reports.
Prince Faisal bin Farhan is due to hold talks with Iran's President Ibrahim Raisi and Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdullahian. The Sunni kingdom broke off diplomatic relations with Shia Iran 7 years ago after Iranian protesters attacked its embassy in Tehran and consulate in Mashhad in reaction to the execution of a prominent Saudi Shia cleric, Nimr Nimr. Mr. bin Farhan will also oversee the reopening of his country's embassy in Tehran. Iran officially reopened its own embassy in the Saudi capital 10 days ago.
BBC News. The Pakistani Foreign Ministry says 12 of its nationals are among the survivors from a boat carrying hundreds of migrants which sank off the coast of Greece on Wednesday. It said it could not confirm how many were among the 78 people known to have died in the disaster. Riot police in France have clashed with protesters opposed to the building of a high-speed rail line between Lyon and the Italian city of Turin. Thousands of environmental and anti-globalization activists have gathered for a weekend of demonstrations in the Savoy region, defying a ban announced by the local authority. Protesters threw stones and other projectiles at police, who responded with baton charges. The demonstrators complained that the proposed high-speed link, which includes a long tunnel through the Alps, is unnecessary and environmentally damaging. There have been unprecedented scuffles in the South Korean city of Daegu, where municipal officials, led by the mayor, tried to stop a gay pride festival going ahead. The police had to forcibly remove local government workers to allow organisers to set up the annual event. Camilla Mills has the details.
The Daegu Queer Culture Festival has been held in the city's central district since 2009. Daegu city authorities and conservative groups have been trying to stop the gathering taking place. Earlier this week, a local business and several churches failed to get a court injunction to ban the festival. The court sided with the festival host, saying that freedom of expression is as important as freedom of business. There were cheers from event organisers as the police moved to ensure the safety of the legitimate rally.
The authorities in Iran say at least 14 people have died and about 100 others been taken to hospital after consuming homemade alcohol. The incident happened in the northern province of Alborz. State media say 3 people have been arrested. Iran does not allow the production or sale of alcoholic drinks. BBC News.
That was the WINNFM Headline News. The Headline News was brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, and Carib Brewery.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
When it comes to the important things in life, your health, your education, your choice of a life partner, and of course your insurance provider, only the best will do. Caribbean Alliance Insurance is the only insurance company in the Eastern Caribbean with an A excellent rating. We have a robust 3-tier reinsurance strategy that protects our policyholders from multiple catastrophes, even if they occur in quick succession. We spread our risks over 18 territories, ensuring minimal impact to individual territories when a disaster strikes. We provide an excellent claims experience. Claim settlement is usually between 24 to 48 hours. Our A excellent rating means that you are more secure with us. Contact us for motor, property, marine, public liability, employer's liability, and other policies. Delisle Walwyn, people you can trust. Local agent for Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tomorrow secured.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
People make the world go
Enjoy the convenience of getting all your documents in one place. At the TDC Copy and Print Center on 4th Street in Basseterre, we do just that. We offer document formatting, graphic design, and copy and print services. Our team of professionals truly understand all your needs, whether it be administrative, professional, academic, or personal. You bring it, we deliver it with quality every time. Visit the TDC Copy and Print Center today in the TDC Mall on 4th Street in Basseterre or call 465-2511. Your copy and print specialists are waiting to serve you.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
Welcome back, guys, to our first edition of From the Gallery on Inside the News. So we want to thank you guys for sticking and staying with us as we continue to discuss this smoking designated area bill that is about to be debated next week. Panelists remains the same, and we are going to jump right back into the discussion. But before the break, one of our viewers, they had a question, and it said, would a designated smoking area that allows smoking of cannabis indirectly promote the sale of cannabis? If there is a designated smoking area and I don't walk with my smoking material, would I be able to purchase there? What are the thoughts on the floor?
Can you buy marijuana? That's the question. Can you legally buy marijuana?
Not yet.
Let's ask our learned friend across the table.
I don't think so. That will fall under supply.
Supply. But then, of course, the creative aspect of it, what if I'm selling of my possession, the ones that is allowed, of course, within, from my limits that is allowed?
It's still you still sell it. You still sell it.
So, what is the law on supply? Siobhan, can you do a quick search? Our AG Commission website is very effective. So when Siobhan is searching for the actual law on that area, what do you think it would allow for that level of creativity?
Yeah, I mean, we already have like so much creativity as it stands right now surrounding marijuana. Part of that is because it's been illegal for so long that people who wanted to take part in it had to come up with creative ways. So they are leagues ahead of the law in terms of bypassing and stuff like that. So the more avenues that are legally allowed is the more these persons are equipped to exploit it, so to speak. But there's a counterbalance, because as you make it more and more legal, there's no need for you to hide and that kind of stuff. So, but then the other aspect of the conversation opens up, because anything that's legal is regulated. So now you're kind of giving up one for the other. So you're coming under regulation, but then at the same time, it's like the freedom that you had doing your underhand, quote unquote, and I'm not promoting underhanded behavior. Let me say that up front. But the freedom that you had doing that, you no longer have. So it's like it's a give and take, that really happens. So I think I think this sale will go up, because now you have a place where you can smoke. So
in peace.
Yeah. So why? So somebody's got to be giving you the marijuana to do that.
Okay, but for me, the question is, I guess when we were off, we were having this discussion. Who can smoke? I know there, as you said, there is the designated smoking area, but who is allowed to smoke in the designated smoking area? Do I have to have a license?
So basically, there is the freedom of conscience cannabis bill that would also be debated, but it's basic. All of the bills that we are speaking about are basically interrelated. So on the section 3 of that bill, freedom of conscience, it says an adult may apply to the ministry for a license permitting possession of 56 grams or less of cannabis or 15 grams or less of cannabis resin in permitted public spaces. The license would also allow for permit for smoking of cannabis or cannabis resin in areas designated for smoking pursuant to the Smoking Designated Areas Act in permitted public places. And it also allows for the cultivation of 5 or less cannabis plants in a secured area within that person's private premises, so as to prevent minors or persons vulnerable to substance abuse from accessing such plants or any other unauthorized access to such plants.
So again,
for the purpose.
For me, music festival is coming up. There is a designated smoking area. Can I, and somebody who's obviously over 18, just decided, okay, well, I'm going, I'm going to be smoking.
What are you smoking, may I ask?
Marijuana. Marijuana.
Because I think it needs to be clarified as we were discussing that. Yet the license under the Freedom of Conscience cannabis bill, it allows for you to possess the 56 grams. It allows for you to smoke it in the designated area, and it allows for you to grow the 5 or less cannabis plants in your home. But you're, of course, not in the areas for minors.
But you have.
So you have to get that license.
So it doesn't mean then, Cooler Fed coming up Christmas, they're having a designated smoking area. I can't just turn up and say, I'm going to smoke in their area.
Right. You need to get your license
to smoke in the designated area.
Correct.
Well, Ministry of Ecclesiastical.
Something is confusing.
But you can go in the designated area though. Once you're over the age of 18.
So who's smoking?
Exactly. So from the discussion, from the conversation, I'm getting that you're allowed in the area because you're an adult, but you cannot partake in smoking marijuana. So you can smoke other things. So you can have your cigarette smoke, you can do your vapes and so on. But nothing marijuana related.
You
so
need that license.
so that I think that needs to be explicit.
And clear.
Yeah, and so that person
Because
knows.
I made the assumption that if an event or establishment has a designated smoking area, because anything under 2 ounces is decriminalized, then I could partake.
And that is why if you have in excess of that, they allow you to hold it, but you will be ticketed. But if you have your license, you're allowed to hold your
2 ounces, 56 grams.
Wait. Back, say that again.
So what I'm saying, 56 grams is what is allowed.
For license.
When you have your license.
Okay.
Okay.
When who? The promoter or the individual?
The access
So we are speaking about 2 licenses.
Okay.
Under the smoking designated area bill, the license is for event promoters and business establishments to have a designated area for smoking.
So I can have a designated area for smoking, but nobody to smoke in the designated area.
Yes.
Because they're not licensed to smoke.
Yes.
Marijuana.
Sorry, marijuana.
So we have this. Our bar is Ziggy Bar. Ziggy Bar. We have
Skanaipa bar. Skanaipa bar. We have a Skanaipa bar. Hypothetically, we have a Skanaipa bar.
So we have a Skanaipa bar. Skanaipa bar has the
made
license.
An application to the CMO to have a designated smoking area at Skanaipa's bar.
Correct. That license was granted.
We went through the necessary application process. We
Submitted.
explained where it was going to be. We paid the necessary fee.
We had our extraction fan. No smoke is going to affect the non-smoking area.
We've been approved. We have our light. We have our sign displayed. Smoking, whatever. Cool.
If you're 18 years old, you can go into our area, our smoking designated area. If you're 18 and you're smoking cigarettes, you will go in our area. You're smoking your vape.
You can, and you're 18, you can enter.
Yes.
Your vape that doesn't have cannabis resin.
Correct. But if you're going to be smoking marijuana, you need to have a license subject to the Freedom of Conscience cannabis bill that allows for you to hold your 56 grams, smoke the marijuana in that designated area, and grow trees at home.
Yeah. But that is left up to, it's not the promoter going to check to what you're smoking, because this promoter already did his part. So it's up to the law enforcement to say, okay, let me go in here because I don't think it will happen, but the law allows it, right? So they can go in the area and say, well, let's see you smoking weed. Where's your license, right? And even I think it even takes a step back. Not from the smoking area, but from the gates when you're coming into the event, right? if you have your 56 grams, the gates person could say, "Where's your license?" Right?
And they should.
So the conversation starts there. So therefore the license, and I guess Hassani can go into how you go about getting that license and what it says.
Which license?
The license for the individual who intends to smoke.
Yes, because I think right now that's the important one.
Right.
Those who intend to smoke at this point in time, because in their head, music festival coming up this weekend is a 420 experience to some extent. I don't got me thing ball up.
Okay, so the schedule, the application form will be in a schedule. You have the name of the applicant, the date of birth of the applicant. You have to bring your birth certificate to certify that. Nationality, type of valid government issued ID. So you can have a passport, driver's license, voter's ID, social security card. Of course, you need your address. That's your residential address. Then you have your email address. You're going to need a mobile telephone contact number for work.
Personal particulars.
Yes. Is the entire perimeter of your residence secured by fencing? This part of the form is because it is not supposed to be in a public place. Correct? It's supposed to be in a private, and a minor should not be able to pass and pick off a leaf off your ganja tree. So that part of the application, that's why. Is your residence within 300 feet of a school or other educational institution? That's because smoking or growing of marijuana is not permitted within 300 feet of residential. So I presume not. How much is 300 feet? Because I'm looking at Taylor's Washi. Because some people live right behind Washi.
Most schools, people live
right around. Mm-hmm.
So you have to start moving. Think about moving.
Well,
or don't.
I don't smoke.
I'll go into the back. Maybe the back of the yard is 300 feet from the school and at the front of the yard.
Who's measuring this 300 feet? Because, I mean, like, let's be real. Let's be real. Because I love laws and rules and regulations that help people, right? But they can only help if they're properly enforced, right? And again, I said this at the beginning, we have a serious problem when it comes to enforcement, right? So, like you said, there are people right around Bastille and Washi who live right there. Definitely not 300 feet away from the establishment. What happens to those persons? Like, okay, well, I subscribe to this religion. I have my rights. Why is it that I only can have my 56? I can't grow it in my yard. So then, where do I get my 56 from? Because if I can't grow it in my yard, it has to be I'm purchasing or
maybe might be allowed to grow it in your house in a pot. Because then it would not be accessible. Because remember, the aim of the 300 feet is just to ensure that children is not exposed publicly to this growing.
So if you have a child, you can't get a license.
You can get a license, but you're gonna have to satisfy them that you would do what is necessary to ensure that your child is not exposed. Because look at it, we don't have stores. Children are not supposed to be exposed to the fire, but we don't make sure the children ain't over the hot stove. That was just an example to show how you'd know just to satisfy the authorities that may be that you would ensure that your child does not go around the tree.
Well, I guess
so you may got to put up a fencing around the little tree in the backyard.
Like a little garden area.
Just like how you just prevent out the goat from eating down your little where you're going.
I guess it truly does call for an all of society approach.
Yes.
Because other ministries
and clarity. I think these discussions are aimed at shedding light on the loopholes or shedding light on the areas in the bill or the first draft of the bill to kind of fill in those gaps, give us the clarity that is needed to ensure that the public is fully aware and understanding of what is to be expected with the safe passage of this bill.
I think that's so important, because a lot of the times on the tail end we complain when we would not have been taking the time or educated ourselves enough about what this happens. And I think in society too, whenever we start speaking about something, people automatically think that you're against it.
Yes.
Finding the loopholes is what allows it to move forward better. Because, I mean, a bill can be passed, but ask yourself the question, do you want a sloppy bill to be passed, or do you want a really concrete bill to be passed?
And I mean, we have to be honest as well and accept that with anything, there will be some unexpected outcome. Even when you try to plan for everything, there's going to be something that pops up that you didn't anticipate for, but you don't want it to be a situation where so many things pop up that now you are like, maybe we should have waited. You want to ensure that when we pass in these bills, that we've thought about them
comprehensive.
thoroughly. We've had the necessary discussions with all of the stakeholders and everybody that's going to play a part to ensure after the bill has received safe passage that the bill is doing what we intended it to do.
Yes, and I think that's important, and that's an important point for me to share our numbers to call in so that we can hear too from the public. So if you want to call in on our From the Gallery Inside the News show, it's 466-0989 or 662-0989 or 762-0989. So that's for our locals. If you're in USA or Canada, you call 718-285-6984. And if you're in the UK, you call 033-344-0065. We have a caller.
Oh, wow.
So,
yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and you're live on From the Gallery on Inside the News.
Yes, I am coming on the gallery, coming up the step.
Coming on the gallery.
Now, the patrons who come from overseas cannot bring in the ganja.
No.
And they expect by the hype we have had and the advertisement that they will be allowed to smoke. What provision is made for them to get the ganja to smoke? That's my question.
They have to buy it somewhere.
Thank you for that question. You can listen off here for our discussion for that question.
I guess that goes back to the question of the creation of sale, because you can't bring it in.
But if I am allowed 2 ounces,
Will you get it from?
I can share with the local, the visitor.
So this is Christmas. We're giving gifts.
It's not a sale, it's a gift.
That's why I said maybe the 420 experience may include 2 spliff.
We have another caller. Caller, you're live on From the Gallery on Inside the News.
What kind of gallery that? That's a good day to you all. This is Ganja Gallery. Me will let you know what the emphasis is really pursuing and that the old dirty bill that this administration is moving into. We blessed love to everyone, basically. Good day to you all, even who as a lawyer, what you all represent as a systematical farm. We like to ask a question, basically. When you say giving us 56 grams, right? What can the tail achieve within the context of 56 grams? Because she can go more than 56 grams. You see?
Yes.
People don't deal with it because you're coming from this American and European concept. You're not dealing with it from a common level. I mean, fair to say so. I've been on the commission when under the farm administration, and it's been detailed by the CMO who have hastened against the herb itself. So how can somebody who's not knowing value about the herb could be somebody giving the license to where a designated smoking can be? You all are sick around in the society, you know. That's why I'm not glad a part of this here, because it's time now we have public education and not I in particular, I'm not about the crooked racist system that is in here trying to make herb look like it's a jug. I heard some of y'all say that it's stable as a jug. It's not a jug. Y'all telling me that the creator in this time is confirmed to say he's a jug lad. That's what y'all telling us. Y'all got to realize I talk so I say, man, and that's why I want to emphasize in this society. The society don't fail our people, you know. It cannot bring nothing real. Because all you're looking is about economic power. We are not here for economic power, we are here for reasoning. And if we ain't got good reasoning, we ain't got a problem on here. And this is that's how I speak, because I mean to tell no one who I am. I smoke ganja every day. I'm not implying to everyone to smoke ganja. I always saying, you hope we have the whole society. Let us discuss it so we can enhance our people, because ain't anybody smoke ganja here. Let us educate our people. Me not a drug lad. I smoke ganja from since I'm 14 years old, and I out of school over 20 years now, and still using herb. I mean, never got to steal, not rob, not thief, or murder somebody. So let's look at the discussion of how we can family our people properly with the young generation.
Yes.
Give thanks.
Thank
you so
Aya,
much
for
for
your
the
contribution.
Because that was one of the things that I would have mentioned earlier. The type of scrutiny.
We have another caller. We'll take this caller. Caller, you're live on From the Gallery on Inside the News.
Good afternoon, folks.
Good afternoon.
Concerning that bill that's supposed to be introduced, I heard the Attorney General breezily quoting some alarming figures from the cannabis report, showing that just under half of the respondents in a poll, when questioned, admitted to marijuana use.
Yes.
Now, assuming it was a scientific poll and we can extrapolate, it would appear that practically half the country is using it. And the same report suggested that 70% of people were in favor of decriminalizing it. And these figures were corroborated by Dr. Martin, who said that in a school survey, 30% of the students had some exposure, or I think contact was the word used, in their homes, suggesting that cannabis use is widespread and now normal. Now, I assume that a lot of that use is via smoking. And I thought we had arrived at a consensus that smoking, even second-hand smoke, was unhealthy. Right? And I believe, although I believe every adult has a right to his or her own poison, up to and including suicide and euthanasia, I don't think, although I believe that, I don't think that government should be in the business of promoting things that are bad for its citizens, such as smoking. Okay? But we seem now to be at the point where smoking ganja is accepted. Okay? I'm not sure. We seem now to be in the situation where we're now talking about regulating it. I'm not so sure that that is possible now that it seems as if the horse has already bolted, right? You know, a more controversial, or maybe actually even what we might do is just like say we know that prostitution is not legal here, but we know it happens. Just keep it illegal, but don't enforce it. I don't know if that is the position to take with ganja use, right? The other more controversial point, though, is that we are currently agonizing over the root cause of criminal activity. Now, if we're going to be objective in our research on that phenomenon, we have to consider all the parameters and factors that can account for it. We are quick to talk about, for instance, the failure of leadership, of schools, parents, the influence of technology and music, things like that. But we are more reluctant to touch the possibility that drug and cannabis use, and I separate them because I know some people don't regard cannabis as
like our farmer caller. Our farmer caller did make that distinction.
Right. Okay. Right. Well, but some people don't make that distinction because some may claim that cannabis is just as addictive as, let's say, alcohol. But the thing is, if we're going to be honest, we really should consider its impact on behavior more, since it can be different to different people. And with the widespread use that the Attorney General suggested, you would think that there would be a thriving business of buying and selling on the ground as it is, because it's still very much an illegal activity, okay? But it may be contributing to some societal ills. All right? So the point I'm making is, are we at the position, at the point where we just accept it? Okay? Like it or not, that is the situation we find ourselves in, and we're now at the point where we're just trying to rein in the horse that has already bolted. You know, because I don't think, even though they said a lot went into establishing that report, we still don't know. We're still in uncharted territory, I think, in what we're doing, and so I'm just anxious that we have enough safeguards to make sure that things don't get out of whack, and you know we don't go above ourselves in what we're attempting to do.
Yeah.
Yes, Carl.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So the first question was in relation to the tourists and how they would be supplied with the marijuana. So I think from the bill, we allowing the trees to be grown if you have your license. So if a person comes, then you can be permitted to grow that tree. You can get your portion from
Somebody's
who is allowed to grow within the area. But one of the discussions that Ras Aya raised was who going to determine the 56 grams. That's something that we were discussing off here when the news was
wasn't the 56 grams
in relation to the trees, as he was saying.
Yeah, but 56 grams was just for what would be found on your person.
Right.
Yes.
So you can have more than 56 grams
in a tree.
In a tree, or
but
how many trees
home.
the act says?
5.
5 trees.
Yeah, so that's way more than 56 grams. So, but on your person, so you're traveling.
So that was the distinction I was going to pinpoint, that a tree is different to what you're holding in your hand when you're moving about. Yeah.
So you can, what I think the 56 it's not, in my view. So let me be very careful with what I say here. I think a lot of the times when we're attached to something, we get defensive really quickly, right? And what it's trying to say is like, okay, with 56 grams, and you can have your nice session, and you could be okay, but it's trying to rein you in and say, let's not overdo it, because another thing you mentioned was the difference between drug and substance, right? It is a drug, and we have to own that. Marijuana is a drug, but the word drug is used in two different instances, one as a noun and one as a verb. So as a noun, it just describes any substance that has a psychological effect on the person. So in that sense, it is a drug. But when you use it as a verb, it now becomes something that is used to make somebody act insensible and so on. So that really and truly is the distinction. So I think most people, when they use the word drug, they mean it as the verb. Colloquially, they use it as the verb. So we have this idea in our heads whenever we say drug that it's that one. So, but under any categorization, it is in fact a drug. But we can use substance and just so the message is carried over better. So 56 grams is just for you traveling, not how much.
In relation to the trees.
Yeah,
the trees have a different stipulation.
In relation to sale, I'm getting it from somebody who is here. Like, does the law speak to anything about sharing? And we have to be so careful when it comes to that, right? We're not trying to clamp down on people per se, but we're making sure, first and foremost, that this substance does not find its way into the hands of persons that should not have it.
And I mean, like the last caller rightfully said, his questions were really about ensuring that if this bill is granted safe passage, that all of our societal infrastructures are ready and capable to deal with what is to come. Because until it has passed, we really won't know if we are ready to deal with it.
say one, say two. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Something too that we need to clarify too is there is marijuana use and there is marijuana misuse.
That's true.
Which is
just like any.
Yes, different stuff.
Just like alcohol.
Yes.
I think we have another caller. Just hold your point. We'll take the caller. Caller, you are live on From the Gallery on Inside the News.
Yes, greetings to everybody in Jesus' name, the only Savior of sinners, from their sin and from hell. Now, what I believe is that, and it's based on the Bible, I believe that all entertainments, including music festival, carnival, etc., should be held by the private sector and not by the government. And I believe the private sector is much more innovative, creative, and that sort of stuff to deal with all issues, including with the cannabis issue. The private sector is more flexible. It is more. It is more innovative and that sort of stuff to deal with problems than the government sector. I would also like to say, still on the music festival issue, I believe those tents and the football field is a loser, is a big loser. Because people now have to walk all the way from the music festival area with the entertainment all the way over to the football field to go to those tents. I think that is a big loser. I think everything should be in the same vicinity. And it makes security a whole lot easier too, because it's a tighter space. It makes security a whole lot easier than to put them on the football field. So I think it is economically and otherwise it is a losing thing. But lastly, I would just like to say, coming back, like I said, I believe music festival should be held by private sector. But also, I would like to say, how can we be serious about fighting crime when we have people like Brian Messiah singing the song Taliban, which encouraging gangsterism, murder, and that sort of stuff on the music festival? Ain't we pushing, for example, a song that is pushing and encouraging crime and that sort of stuff? Because the song says it's badness we endorse, and if you talk to us too hard, we kill you and all them sort of stuff. So how could we say we're fighting crime when we're pushing at least a song that encouraging gangsterism, murder, and all that sort of stuff? Mayhem and all that sort of stuff. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Carlo.
Somebody was holding their point.
Yeah. So,
I think it was Tracy.
Drug use and marijuana use and marijuana misuse.
But you're a counselor, right, in the schools?
Yes.
What? Because we're talking about society now. What does this mean? What does this change mean for young persons? Because we have a member who's some members who are teachers in our association. I spoke to them about it, and they said the children come to school high right now. What does that mean to this relax? Because it's a relaxation, basically.
Will it be normalized? Would children now feel like,
what impact will it have on their studies or in school or not?
I think if it is that we are still in the context of discussing the bill, and I don't think a license would be granted
so it's illegal
to a school child to smoke marijuana. So in the context of the bill, definitely still not a must, but not a must, is not something that is acceptable. I would like to say that I think children have been coming to school high since the dawn of time. So it's not something that is new. I think what is new is the discussion openly in
about
terms about the use of it. I've taught as a school counselor I've worked as a school counselor for a very long time. So they used to bring the marijuana in the ties and that type of thing. And it goes to the concept of the adolescent child or the child in terms of anything that is seen as illegal or there is restriction there is that urge to want to partake into it, because you are now in the in crowd if it is that you are
doing the bad
doing something that is deemed illegal according to societal norms, that is. And so maybe, and mind you, don't quote me on it, we're just having a discussion on it. Maybe it might taper off after a bit, because then it won't be seen as something that is it's not
pedestal, it's not bad anymore.
Some may need to smoke it, because hey,
So you're saying it could go either way?
it could go
but
either ways.
the question then is, because with any of those circumstances, you always have to weigh in the fact of what is going to happen in the meantime. Because while it takes its time to become regular or normal, how much damage has been done? And we in looking at that and doing that risk assessment, that's when you make the decision. Because can you honestly, well, no, you know what, I'm not going to say that. But learning is affected when your psychological state is altered.
Yes.
Right? Do we have the data that speaks to how much it alters and what is acceptable and what isn't acceptable? No, we don't. So then that one has to be curtailed or stopped until such a time when there is some proof. There was a study, I'm trying hard to remember it, but they were speaking to the ages of cannabis use or safe cannabis use. And I think it was under
25.
The last one was under 23. That under 23 is considered unsafe because of how your brain is developing, right? So you're hardwiring yourself before 23. Now imagine somebody who is fully hardwired before their brain is no longer elastic at 18. That means an elasticity, neuroplasticity, it affects how you learn and how you deal with situations. Right? So if you're no longer plastic at 18, you're going to deal with situations as an 18-year-old for the rest of your life.
Can I give some context in terms of the biological aspect of it? The biological aspect of it. According to the science, the last part of our brain to develop is the prefrontal cortex. That's the front part that deals with emotion regulation, decision making, empathy, and all that aspect of us. And if it is that the research have shown that the smoking marijuana before that stage, before this part is developed, which is at 23, 25, that's it, then we have an issue. So we have persons who have misused it, that is at this point in time. And there is no reasoning skills. There is limited empathy. There is limited impulsivity. Impulse control at this point of their life. Then there we see where we have big.
So when you basically so link this to crime, to violent crime.
Response.
Yes, we can, according to the science part of it.
To go a little further, right? Because and I don't want to totally disregard the caller's point. He said he's been smoking since he's 14, right? And he's turned out fine. There's the rule, and then there are outliers. And then there's when you grow up. So society has changed over time. So you might have not been exposed to some of the extremes, which even though the science still says that, you're I have to be careful when I use this word, you haven't reached your full potential, you still weren't in an environment that had so much negative that it affects you on a day-to-day basis. Right, so your environment
exposed.
That's what I was looking for. So your exposure to negativity was minimal, right? The people you are around were positive and put you in the right. So you still have that, and that goes with you. In this day and age, your exposure or the avenues to exposure to negative are so many, right? That what I think the research is saying is like, let's not take that chance, right? So. Yes, things can happen and you come out fine, but do you want to take that chance in this current society?
And I feel that
we're gonna take another call. Caller, you're live on From the Gallery on Inside the News.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm coming up this step for the gallery. I want a marijuana tree to beg. You got any?
I don't have a license to go. So.
A license? You got to get a license to go it?
Yes. As per the rule, as per the bills that will be debated next Tuesday, you should definitely.
License? Okay. Well, I can tell you something now.
Go ahead.
The Creator make all trees on this earth here. And I would like to know what was extracted from the ganja tree. Why they say, well, it's okay now to use it. Because over the years, the ganja is older than everybody on earth today, you know. And it's God make it. And so the ganja is no drug. If the ganja is a drug, that means all the trees on the earth it's a drug. And for the amount of people get locked up and shut up and pay up money for the same over God make, I think they have a right now to turn around and sue the people who are responsible for doing those things to them. Because no one can prove that something was extracted from the ganja tree, so it is okay now to use it. So I want to know what was extracted. That all of a sudden now everybody now come talking about you could smoke it here and it's okay to smoke it, but a lot of people get locked up and jail and all kind of thing for it. That's my question. What was extracted from it?
So reparations for ganja family.
Because drug is what man make, you know. Drug, the Creator make no drug. He make everything on the earth to use. And
Well,
I could tell you all, you know,
I don't
there
know
is a
if-
plant called joy juice. Joy juice. That they could mash up anybody's brain just like cocaine.
I don't know
Okay,
if this could assist
if they abuse the tea that they make with it. Anyway, that's my question. Thanks for taking the call. I'll listen over here.
Thank you.
I was going to
Okay.
say to our previous caller that I don't know if this would be of any consolation or assistance, but I know that the Attorney General said yesterday that anybody that had minor offenses
their
for
records
cannabis
were
and marijuana
expunged.
possession and so on, records will be expunged and have begun to be expunged already.
So they're getting reparations.
Yeah, in some form or another.
Yes.
And I guess reparation should go beyond the expulsion part because of it. Then so many families would have been broken
And hurt.
and young people hurt because of their choice to use
How they were
marijuana,
viewed.
and they were viewed as the
Outcasts.
downcast or the outcast of society. So it goes beyond that. It goes in terms of our actual reframing of how it is that we operate because
And I mean, I guess that's where education comes in, eh? And like we started by saying, as long as a law is going to be changed, it has to come with some education to encourage the perspective of persons to shift, because it's a lot of years that people would have been accustomed to viewing marijuana and cigarette smoke in a certain light. And so we can't expect for it to change overnight, first of all. So it's something that we have to look at as being a change that is going to take some time for people to grapple with and come around to.
is my question, is there within the bill or anything, is there anything in terms of medicinal value and use of it?
Well,
There's a medicinal
there's a
cannabis
bit.
act, I think, that separates
Yes.
and apart
To
from
the-
the smoking areas and the conscious bill, as far as I know.
Also, one of the impact in terms of with young people from my substance misuse treatment specialist point of view is that marijuana has always been known within our field as a gateway drug. And so it opens up the field to the introduction of other substances because when you misuse it, the high isn't the high
After a certain
certain
time.
time. So
So you want to go more, you go
you
more
have
and
to-
more and more.
you're
So you could
introduce in terms of wanting to
Try something else to chase that feeling again.
chase that, and so
Which
then
we kind of see has already begun.
yes, and there's the introduction of the party drugs,
and pills
the
in our-
ecstasy, and all those things into
our
the society
communities and schools.
that we are not even
Has
equipped and ready
to address.
ready to address at this point in time.
And that's why these discussions are important.
And even to piggyback, because I think when we were off air, we would have spoken about edibles, right?
Yes.
And what the introduction into our community. They're at events, they're even sold in stores, right? And I think you'd have mentioned, Stefan, in relation to, why it is so, right? Because it's still supply, because we're speaking about supply. If the persons have their 56 grams, they can't sell it because it could still be charged a criminally liable under the Supply Act, right? So you were saying you could piggyback on that in relation to it being a
gateway.
No, it being not weed itself. So
in all its forms.
So legislation should read in all its forms, and I think that, from a legal standpoint, should cover derivatives of the plant, because there's nothing that speaks to edibles per se, not to my knowledge. I stand to be corrected.
I don't think it's clear.
Yeah, it's not clear. Nothing that speaks towards the oils or byproducts. And let's be real, there are a lot of good byproducts that can come from cannabis, right? I think most people, we focus on the smoking.
Yeah.
I mean, most people focus on the smoking and the use of the substance to get high.
Yes, but you don't think about drinking the tea.
Drinking the tea, using your oils for
so
your hair.
while it's something, while it's something that can be used, I think what needs to be highlighted in the re-education aspect of it is these regulations must be put in place for persons who opt to get high from it. And then we branch off. So once we can control the quote-unquote negative side, and the reason why I say quote-unquote negative side is because marijuana has been used in the world for years. In the East, it's been used, but how it was used then versus how it is used now, the frequency, all of that has changed. So we can't necessarily just bring the past arguments to present-day arguments without examining the context of how it was used. And then all of those byproducts, the oils are used for so many other things. And then you spoke about gateway. The science is always evolving and changing, and right now they're looking at even other
social,
not psychosocial, the word, other drugs that cause a psychedelics. So other psychedelics in the use of treating PTSD and so on. So there's so many uses for substances like this, but it must be used in a way that allows for that individual to course correct and benefit. And let's be honest, how we're using it now, it's not to treat anything, it's just to get high. It's not to course correct. As a probation officer, I dealt some persons. I dealt with a case with a young man who was smoking, and he used to smoke 5 times a day, right? And I was like, well, why are you smoking 5 times a day? He's like, it keeps him calm. I said, yes, it keeps you calm. So the drug, the substance, keeps you calm. But what are you doing? How are you growing as an individual? How are you learning to keep yourself calm? Are you going to continually use this substance just to keep yourself calm? I said, when you started keeping yourself calm, what did you start out with? I used to smoke two times a day. I said, well, now you're up to 5. So you need more of this to keep yourself calm because your tolerance level has gone up. And I said, let's be honest, you are not growing as an individual because you're not allowing your own mind to go through and process things and help you to not get upset in the first place. And this is the predicament that we have. But to go back to what you were saying, we need to look at it holistically. And we need to say, all right, these are the ones that we're regulating and fining. These are the ones that we're allowing to go through. Because there's hemp and there's a whole bunch of derivatives that can be used for hair products, for skincare, for this, for that, and so on, and the expansion of that understanding. But let us understand that the focus on this bill and the focus on everything else is just this aspect of it that causes negative effects, not just for you, but for persons in the community. And I'll end by saying, like, as a country, as a society, we need to start listening to each other.
Yes.
Right? When somebody comes to you, they're coming to you from their perspective, from what they're dealing with, from what they're seeing. And we've lost the ability to listen and really pick out from what the person is saying, what they're trying to bring across to you. And then we just attack them back because we're on two different sides of the coin. I don't use marijuana, but I'm here having a marijuana conversation. Why? Because there are persons who do use it, and
you interact with persons who have.
I grew up in places where marijuana use was frequent, right? Doesn't make you a bad person, but to be able to be sitting on this aisle and having a conversation on the other aisle, that's what we need to be doing. And then with those discussions, bills like these will now be expanded so that everybody is happy.
All encompassing. Right. So, panelists, in the final moments of our discussion, you can share your final thoughts on any aspect of the bill, anything that you hope as for our country as a whole, or as the debate takes place.
Well, personally, I just think that, it is a good start. And whenever, like Tracy would have said at the beginning, these bills are really for us to discuss and raise our opinions and thoughts on it, because these bills are really what are going to govern us going forward as young persons. And so there really should be spaces carved out for us to raise our thoughts so that our lawmakers can see what they put on paper from our perspective. And so, again, I thank Skanaipa for inviting me today to have these discussions. It's something that I encourage, and I always wish for more young people to come on out and speak about these issues. And let's get the conversations rolling, because we are going to be the next set of persons that sit at the table, and it's for us to really start speaking now.
Awesome, I agree. Anyone else?
I think let's not be, to piggyback off of her saying, having the conversations, I want everybody listening to understand that these conversations are not for or against. These conversations are highlighting.
Critical evaluation.
Yeah. And it's not against anything. It's like, hey, the bill can pass safely, it cannot, right? But we're having these conversations to the next iteration of the bill has these things inside.
Yes.
We're not for, we're not against. The only thing that I can say that we're truly for is improvement, is moving forward holistically. So that's what I would say.
Okay.
For me, I'm really happy that I would have been asked to come and share my views on the bill, and it impacts on all young people, because all of the times when we as adults do things, we don't tend to think that young people have an informed choice or informed information that can be used, and we all assume that all young persons are bad, and adults just feel like you can't do nothing right then, or you can't add to the conversation. And sitting down and listening here, I'm saying that, we have things so wrong, because listening to you, I think that our future is so safe. And in terms of what we as a country need to be moving towards, and I know sometimes for us, because we are not accustomed to it, it threatens us and we feel vulnerable, because it means that, okay, they are catching up to us, and I really do congratulate you guys in the job that you are doing. And as Stefan would have said, it's not that we are for or against what is happening. It's just that we are now in a time where all of our voices count and can be heard. And so thank you very much.
Awesome.
Yes, this conversation was very important. I was listening a lot to what was happening, especially in the latter part about it. and enjoyed all of the contributions that you guys shared, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this bill shapes out, how it will be debated. It looks good on paper. I'm also looking to see, like, in terms of the implementation, the monitoring, as well as the policing, if you want to say policing. I'm really looking forward to see how that is done, as well as the societal impact. And I hope that the legislators can do continuous assessments to figure out, okay, if this is working, and if we need to come back and scale back or push forward. And as we said, to have these conversations, it's not for our gains, but it's to listen. So even for the legislators to listen, not to be up there and just make blanketed bills, etc., but to listen to the people, listen to the young people, listen to the Rastafarians, etc., as to what they have to say, so that the bills that you create can be all-encompassing.
Yes, definitely. So I feel, as everyone would have basically highlighted, that this is indeed a timely and important discussion, right? Like, especially because it allowed us to hear from the common man, right? And this is what the law speaks to the common man, right? And normally when persons are in parliament, the legislation is being for the common man, right? So one of the things I really want us to do and come in the habit of when we're doing these bills and these change of how society will act, right? Because this bill definitely will have some impact and significant societal impact, right? We need to be large on public education, not after, but definitely before, right? So therefore, within the relevant stakeholders, right, we need to have more discussions like these. Let's not wait for the government, even if you have to reach out to the Attorney General and say, I want to have a understanding of what this really entails, and we want to have a discussion on it, right? These laws are made for us, they're going to affect us, right? So we need to be a part of the entire process, right? And not that when it's passed, right, that it's just, okay, we conform to it, right? But we need to have a say, especially youth, right? Because as Siobhan would have mentioned, that we are soon to be at the table, right? And whatever is done now affects us now, right? So therefore, we will see, especially the practicality of this legislation come next week, Thursday, right? If the bill is to have got safe passage, right? And this is one of our largest music event. So therefore, we will see on a large scale if the bill might need to go back to Parliament to be retweeted or what's not. But therefore, I feel like public education enforcement is very, very vital in this process.
Thank you guys so much. Dear you've had it, listening audience, our first edition of From the Gallery. I too join with the sentiments of the other panelists to share that this was indeed a timely conversation. And as young people, I think that we need to participate in the decision-making processes of our country, because these laws do affect us, not as only young people, but just us in general. And I think that the views and the perspectives and the insights that can be created and learned from these conversations will help the person sitting at the table currently. We want to thank each and every one of you for participating in this debate. It was a very thought-provoking one, I'm sure. I think I've seen the Attorney General tuned in, and I'm sure that he'll be using some of the things that we discussed this evening during the debate. I want to also big up WINNFM and the authorities for facilitating this debate. It was the first of its kind, but we hope that in the future we can continue to do bills. Every bill that is being passed, if we can have a discussion so that we can help in shaping an all-encompassing legislation. So thank you again, and there you've had it.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects or sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.